I'm delighted to welcome Michael Baston, president of Rockland Community College, to the virtual stage. Michael, hi, how are you?
Hello, Harriet. Good to be with you this morning.
Thank you. Let me give everybody a little bit of background on your auspicious career. Michael was recently elected to the board of directors of the American Association of Community Colleges, AACC, which is the primary advocacy organization and the voice of the nation's community colleges. So we're really honored to have you here. He's a one-of-a-kind leader who deeply embeds himself into both the practice and the administrative aspects of higher ed. He uniquely sees the world through the lens of the learner, the educator, the administrator, and policymakers, and he brings that multifaceted sensitivity to everything he does. Those of you who were with us last year may remember Michael's perfect quote about the experience of teaching during the pandemic. He said the year felt like surfing on Jell-O. It was an unforgettable expression of the moment, and Michael, we're looking forward to what you have to say today. Thank you, really, thank you for being here. I'd love you to share your perspective with everybody. Why is it important to be focusing on all these things today?
Well, Harriet, certainly, once again, it's so wonderful to be with you and all of the folks here for this extraordinary summit. What matters now? We as a country have been through a very challenging time as a whole world under the challenges of the global pandemic. And at the same time, we recognize that as some are talking about a new normal or a next normal, you appropriately say, what is the now normal? What are the things that we must do now as we seek to transition into a world under constant reset? And when I think about the conversations of yesterday and the science, as well as today, of the heart of the enterprise, we rarely realize, why are we here? Why are we in education? Why are we in these spaces where we're engaging learners and educators and administrators and all the different people that come to the table in this conversation? Why are we here? It is because we believe in the power of the possible, and that students, when given a chance, the right supports and the right conditions, that they can reach the greatest dreams and live the lives that they deserve. That's why I got into teaching. That's why I got into administration. That's why I got into education. And I'm sure if we all think about it, some of that same sentiment lights all of our fire.
For sure. For sure. And so I know you've been thinking about this a lot. We're all thinking about what matters most now. And I know you have a lot of thoughts in mind. To you, as you look at the big picture, as you think about individual students, as you think about your role and the role of leaders like yourself, what do you think matters most now?
I think there's a couple of things that matter most now. One of the things is that we've got to learn to be more forgiving. If we've learned nothing else, the pandemic has stretched us in terms of recognizing that we are human beings. And each of us have fragile experiences and emotions. And there are times when we have to kind of learn to forgive one another and not to have expectations that are unrealistic at a time where everyone is in this constant state of change. That's something that's very important to me.
And one big piece of that, I think, is, also learning to forgive ourselves. And, there's been a lot of focus, and we've heard a ton, in the last year about student mental health. And one of the sessions we have this afternoon is Sarah Abelson from the Healthy Minds Study at the University of Michigan, who's going to give us a big picture on really what's the state of student mental health, what has been the impact of the pandemic, and what are some ideas that schools and teachers and institutions can use to address mental health for students. So we're on the same page about forgiveness.
And I think with that sort of conversation also comes the second point, I would say, is flexibility. The reality is, pre-pandemic, many of us had very rigid expectations and rigid systems and rigid structures. And we thought that, in fact, you could only do credits in this way, you could only do hours this way, you could only do schedules this way, you could only learn in this environment or modality. Well, guess what? this pandemic taught us a lot about how to be more flexible, how to be more sort of agile, and how to make sure that learning could still continue.
Yeah, I think that's really great. And we have this afternoon also two really great leaders, friends of yours, I know, Sarah Goldick-Robb and Jesse Stommel, who are going to be talking about their ideas with each other about designing for care, which I think is just, really all about flexibility, seeing the whole student and doing what we can to continue what you're talking about. So yeah, that's great. I agree completely.
But I also think their works talk about being future oriented.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking about the classroom different, thinking about the physical environment differently. Many of our classes now have hybrid modalities, and thinking about how many of our folks are getting 24-hour days, 7-day a week tutoring or advising or all the kinds of supports. Well, I don't believe that that's going to end as we transition at some point from the pandemic. I think that that's a part of our future, and as well as all of the resets in the jobs and opportunities. So as we think about now, we have to think about how our now is future oriented. What are the things that we need to do pedagogically? What are the things that we need to do physically? What are the things we need to do technologically? All of those pieces will be very important for us to think about the future, and those thoughts have to happen now. But at least we have some indication that we have the muscle to do it because we had to.
So yeah, and interesting, the whole day I think is going to be about the future this fall, and then wrapping up the whole session this afternoon is going to be Arthur Levine, who is president emeritus of City Colleges in New York and the Woodrow Wilson Foundation. He's also the author of a book on the future of higher ed called The Great Upheaval. So he's going to be very provocative. Kelly Pope, our very own Kelly Pope, who is a tenured professor at DePaul and an innovator in her own right, is going to be interviewing him. So that's going to be a little provocative and interesting as well.
Well, I love it because at the end of the day, if we are going to win the future, we've got to be focused. And winning the future means we've got to be open-minded, and winning the future means we've got to actually bring more people to the table and into the conversation, and we've got to democratize education, and we've got to make sure that people feel like they can participate. And it starts in the classroom, and it starts in the hallways, in the libraries, it starts in the virtual environments. It starts in all of these areas where we all feel like we are a part of answering the question, what matters now?
Right. And I have to say, you're so right about focus, and the focus is, it's more important than ever. There's so many different pieces to focus on and individuals to focus on, and real advocacy and community building. And we have Tiffany Yu this afternoon talking about diversibility, and Gay Teresa Johnson talking about building community. So, all of what you're talking about, forgiveness, flexibility, future-oriented, focused, I hope we're going to be able to touch on all of those. And I'll go through a few more people who are just terrific people that are going to be joining us today. So Jessica Rowland Williams from Every Learner Everywhere, Michael Collins, Laura Hamilton, Will Del Pilar. It's just a terrific lineup, and we think everybody get your water, get your snacks. If you're not going to want to leave your screen, we're really looking forward to today. And Michael, I'm sure we're going to see you later. Thank you so much. Really, really glad to kick off the day with you, get your insights and your energy for everybody this morning. Thank you.
Great to see you, Harriet. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.